Okay, so welcome guys for another live problem solving session for the course Introduction to Semiconductor Devices, which is being conducted by Professor Naresh Imani. Just for introduction again, I am Som Lakote, currently a third year PhD student at ISC Bangalore, and my research area is mostly in the analog and RF circuits for radars, which we are using for vital signs monitoring. Now, what we will be doing in this session is we will be mostly solving the questions which are related to Schottky barrier junction, since not much has been covered for the MOSFETs. So we don't have any numericals as of now to solve for the MOS capacitors. So we'll be mostly solving the numericals for this what you can say Schottky barrier junction, and from the next session onwards we will move on with the MOSFET in a full-fledged manner. Okay, so now this is the first question that you have. The figure below shows the electric field versus the position in a metal. Just a minute, sorry. Yeah, the figure below shows the electric field versus the position in a metal semiconductor junction diode with a semiconductor doped at 10 to the power 16 centimeter to the power minus 3. The semiconductor is silicon at room temperature. So it is in the equilibrium and the depletion approximation is assumed. You may assume that the electron affinity is given to be 4 electron volts. So what they have asked is whether the semiconductor is of N type or P type. So can you guys please help me in solving this question? How will I be able to determine, just by looking at the electric field profile, how can I say whether the semiconductor is N type or P type? How should I proceed for solving this question?
Slope.
Yeah, slope. Yeah, correct. So what is the slope? Slope is positive or negative?
Negative.
Slope is negative. Think again.
Positive.
Positive. Yeah. So see, we are moving like this, right? It's a positive slope, correct? So the slope is positive. So let me write it. Slope is positive, right? Now, how can the slope be positive? When does it possible? When is it possible? Like that slope is positive. So how do you first determine the electric field profile? We first draw something, right? And after that we draw the electric field profile, right? So what we draw first? When a certain junction has
Charge
been given,
density.
yeah, charge density, exactly, right? So we know from the Gauss law, right? So that our d by dx, so what is it? It's q times the n, that is the what you can say the charge density present on this in this length, right? And divided by epsilon si, correct? Now you just told me that the slope is positive, correct? This is positive, so that means this charge density that is present, even this must be positive, correct? Now please tell me in which type of material the charge density will be positive. So here I have a, let's say, N type, and here I have a P type, correct? The majority carriers has to flow from this semiconductor material, and whatever is left behind, that should be in the positive, that should what you can say constitute a net positive charge. So in which type of material that will be happening?
N type.
Yeah, correct. So what happens in the N type? So you have dopants, right? And what dopants bring with them? They bring the electrons with them. So what happens when the electrons start diffusing? They left behind what? The positively exposed ions, and that too immobile ions, correct? Only when these positive immobile ions are present, only then this charge density will be positive. And only when this charge density is positive, my electric field profile, which is what you can say in the depletion region in the semiconductor present at the semiconductor, that is a depletion region that is present in the semiconductor. So that can have the positive slope only when this is positive, right? And this has been positive because this has been given in the question to us. So as you guys have solved it, the semiconductor is definitely of the N type and it is not the P type. And now can you please tell me from the electric field profile, how are you identifying whether this is a what you can say a semiconductor junction or metal semiconductor junction? How are you able to tell? Let's say this MS diode was not being given to you. How are you actually determining whether the left side contact that is present, whether this is metal or whether this is semiconductor? electric field is zero. Yeah, but what happens exactly at the junction? What happens exactly when there is a exactly the junction between the metal and the semiconductor? What happens over there?
Band bending occurs at the junction.
Yeah, but we will go to the band bending, no issues. I just want to guess you from this diagram itself. Just by looking at the diagram, how are you actually able to guess? See, this is a positive. These are the positive. This is a positive charge density, right? So something must be there on the left side to balance it, because in the depletion region, if you look at the whole depletion region, there is a, what you can say, the net charge density is zero inside the complete depletion region. I'm not talking about the separate regions in the semiconductor or the metal, right? So the net whole charge density should be zero over there. So something should be there which must be balancing this positive charge density. So how are you able to guess whether this is a metal or semiconductor? First of all, tell me whether there will be any depletion. Yeah, go ahead.
It is a semiconductor, I think.
How did you get it?
Because metal has excess electrons.
Okay, yeah. Then?
So it should get more electron. Something like that.
Yeah, see, the electrons are flowing from semiconductor metal. See, there is a difference in the Fermi energy level, right? So if you have seen in the lecture as well, so what sir had told us, like it just depends on the positioning of the Fermi level, right? So if the Fermi level for the semiconductor is higher compared to a Fermi level of the metal, right? So then the electrons will start flowing from what you can say the semiconductor to the metal. Now I am just asking, who is actually balancing this positive charge? What happens in the metal? Just tell me whether there exists any depletion region in the metal or not, and if no, why? Guys, go ahead. You are on the correct track. Don't fear for giving any wrong answers as well. The charge density which is present at the length, let's say xn over here. So how much length will be there? This xn length is present on the semiconductor side, right? So the xn length of the depletion region is present on the semiconductor side, right? And now for metal, what happens? How much length will be there? Will this length be there, or it will be just exactly at a one point? There has to be some charge density. We cannot violate the what you can say, the charge neutrality condition. The charge density has to be present in the metal somewhere.
There will be a depletion length.
There will be a depletion length. Okay, and how did you get that? Like there will be a depletion length, and what determines the depletion length actually? Let's say you have let's say you have P N junction. How do you actually determine on which side the depletion length will be higher? Just by intuition, not by any numerical or any solving any particular problem, just by intuition.
Majority carriers, doping.
Yeah, you determine the doping, right? So the side where the doping is extremely high, what happens to the length of the depletion region on that side?
Reduces.
Yeah, reduces, exactly, correct. So the depletion range there is the minimum. So what is the doping for the metal? Let's say you are comparing the N-type semiconductor and you are comparing the metal. Which one has the very high doping? Metal or N-type semiconductor? Which is having the large number of what you can say? Metal, exactly, right. So if metal is having such a large doping, then will there exist any depletion region over there? See, the doping is extremely huge as compared to the normal semiconductors that are present. So even if the depletion region is there, it will be extremely small. So what you can say is like the depletion region is almost negligible compared to the depletion region that will exist on the semiconductor side, right? So who is actually balancing this positive thing? it is this thing that you can, the positive charge density is actually balanced by what you can say a line charge that is present exactly at this point x equal to 0. This is a delta function, right? This is what we had also seen in the previous case, right? Now just to confirm whether this is correct or not, now what we have just told you, the charge density, the d by dx, the slope of the what you can say, the d by dx is proportional to the charge density, right? So if de by dx is of the form what you can say some delta function that is present, like this is present at what, where x equal to 0, correct? So the moment I integrate the delta function, what should I get? I should get the step function, right? That means at x equal to 0 there should be a sudden, extremely sudden change in the magnitude of the electric field that I should be able to observe, correct? Now let's look at the x equal to 0. Now just tell me, this is point number A and this is point number point number B, sorry. So are you able to observe a sudden change in the magnitude of the electric field at x equal to 0 or not? Are you able to observe it? Yes, exactly, you are able to observe it, right? So that means this junction, wherever you are seeing such a kind of a sharp what you can say jump in the electric field's magnitude with at that particular point, then you can see like there must be a delta function in the charge density that is present, and the delta function can only be there if the semiconductor is extremely highly doped, that is N++ or something, or if there is a metal that is present. So this is why we can verify that this is indeed a metal semiconductor junction diode, and the semiconductor that we have told, like as you guys have told, it is a N-type semiconductor, right? So I hope this concept was clear. If you have any doubts, then please proceed ahead for asking any doubt. I will be moving with the next question. So this is again a sub part of this question itself. So what they have asked me now is they calculate the Schottky barrier height. So now can you guys help me? See, this value is given first of all. So now can you guys help me, like how can I calculate the Schottky barrier height? Just look at the given thing that is present over here. I just need to know two things to calculate the Schottky barrier height, that's it. How can I proceed? Any hints, any suggestion?
Barrier of metal.
What the barrier of metal? Yeah. So okay. So what he is suggesting is, I'm sorry. What is happening? Just a minute. Okay. Just a minute, guys. Something happened. Okay. Yeah. So now what he is suggesting me is that the phi m minus chi, the chi of silicon, and this is the work function of the metal, right? So this is what will give me the Schottky barrier height. Now this chi has been given to me, but unfortunately this phi m has not been given. So this is given and this is not given. So your approach was right, but the only problem is this phi m value is not given to me. Actually, if you look, then this what is the work function? Actually, it has been asked in the third question, so we have to calculate it. So unfortunately, I cannot use this formula. So what should I use? What do I have with me? See guys, go ahead. You are going in the sorry. Yeah, exactly. Correct. So the Schottky barrier height, it can be calculated from this expression, that VBI plus what you can say EC minus EF. Correct. Now we have to find the value of this EC minus EF, right? So now you must be knowing this from very initial lectures, that your N0 concentration varies with Nc as exponential to the power minus of what? EC minus EF by KT. Correct? Now, so what you can do, EC minus EF, and I am dividing it by Q for simplification in the calculations. So this will be KT by Q, ln of what? N naught by NC. N naught will be dopant concentration divided by the NC, because this ND will be much higher than the equilibrium, not equilibrium, the intrinsic electron concentration that will be present, right? So now I want to calculate this value. Let's check. This NC value has been given, and as you can see, the ND is given. We have already determined that the semiconductor is N type, right? So this doping must be ND, correct? So now if you substitute the values EC minus EF by Q, it will come out to be, this is nothing but 0.0259, correct? And ln of what? So this is ND has been given as 10 to the power 16, correct? And this N naught, the value of NC 3.23 into 10 to the power 19. I guess I made some mistake. There should be a minus sign over here. Yeah, correct. So now if you calculate this difference, then it will come out to be, see, this is a negative sign, right? And even the long term is less than 1, so this negative will cancel, and you will get the value as 0.21 volts. Right? See, this is divided by Q, right? So everything will be volts over here. If I had not divided it by the Q, then everything will be electron in terms of electron volts. Okay. So now I know this value now, EC minus EF. Now can you guys please help me in calculating the value of VBI? I will just present you the diagram in front. So can you guys please help me? How can I calculate the value of what you can say the built-in potential from this diagram?
Using the formula of depletion width.
Using the formula of depletion width. Okay, correct. So what formula you are talking about?
W, area under the curve.
Yeah, exactly, the area under the curve, right? So now this VBI will be what? And what is the area under the curve? It's a triangle. Half into base. What is this base? The base is nothing but the Xn, because entire depletion region is present in the semiconductor side, right? Half into base into height. What is the height? E of 0. So let's check whether all these values have been given to me or not. So what is the value of X of n? 0.23 into 10 to the power minus 4 centimeter. And what is the value of E of 0? See, just check the units. So everything should be in centimeter, nothing should be in micrometer, or else you have to adjust the units. E of 0 is 3.6 into 10 to the power 4. So 3.6 into 10 to the power 4, right? So if you calculate the value of VBI, then you will be able to get it as 0.41 volts. Correct? So I have VBI with me. I have EC minus EF with me. So let's say this is equation A. Let's say this is equation B. Let's say this is equation number C. Correct? So I know VBI, I know EC minus EF. So can I easily calculate the phi BO, that is the what you consider the Schottky barrier height, right? So if you just substitute this, then you will get that the Schottky barrier height will be what you can say 0.62 electron volts. Correct? So this is the Schottky barrier height that you will be able to get. Now the next question is they have given us the electron affinity, right? So what is the work function? So somebody had suggested me in the earlier problem itself that the phi BO is equal to what? Phi m minus chi of Si. Correct? Now I know phi BO, correct? Because I have calculated it in the last question itself. It's 0.62 electron volts. Phi m has been asked to me, and chi is given as 4.03 eV. Correct? So what will be the value of phi m? So the value of phi m will be equal to what? 4.65 electron volts. Correct? So I hope this was clear. If you guys have any doubts, then please ask. Now this is again a conceptual question. So is the electrostatic potential of the bulk semiconductor greater or less than the electrostatic potential of the metal? So what they are actually asking is, if you look in this diagram, so there will be a certain potential on the metal side, let's say Vm, and there will be a potential on the semiconductor side, right? So which terminal is actually more positive, and how are you actually going to determine it? So again, I will need some help from you guys. The electric field profile has been given. So how can I actually judge which side is having more potential and which side is having the less potential? Is there any relation between the what you can say electric field and the voltage, from where I can get some help?
Yes, sir. V equal to dV by dx.
E is equal to dv by dx, correct? So if I write it,
Yes.
in terms of the integration, then it will be what, minus of E dot dx, and let's say this is from it is starting from, let's say, x equal to some point in the metal maybe, and x equal to some point in the semiconductor, correct? Now what this represents, see, this is an integration, this is a definite integral, right? So this is telling me that it should be the area under the curve E field versus the distance from this point to this point, correct? So now let me expand it like this. So let's say there is some point v of x2 minus v of x1, and this is represented by this thing, what, x of some point, maybe what you can say, x1 here and x2 here, and E dot dx, correct? Now if I just look at the area over here, right? So what is actually the value of this area? Let's say I don't consider this entire depletion region, I consider till only this small portion, right? Correct? So now as I am actually moving my x, this point, as I am moving my point to the right hand side, actually I am sweeping the entire triangle, right? So now area under this curve, as you can see, this will be positive or negative. First of all, tell me, area under this curve, whether it will be positive or negative in nature.
Area will be negative, sir.
Area will be negative,
Positive.
exactly, right? So if my area is negative, this is going to be negative, and I already have a negative sign, what you can say, outside the integral, then this term will become more and more positive, right? So for example, let's say my x1 is fixed and this is variable, correct? So as I increase the value of x2, area will be what, more and more positive, correct? So what actually I am doing, I am adding up the potential as I am moving away from x1, and this is until what point this will happen. So as I reach the value of x2, if I put x2, when this will become xn, so this is the point where I will be able to get, okay, this was the potential that was built inside the, what you can say, the depletion region, correct? So now when I reach this condition, the potential at that particular point, v of x2 minus v of x1, that is the potential on the leftmost point, this term is a positive quantity, correct? So this means that the v of x2 value should be, what you can say, greater than v of x1, right? And what is present on the right side, it's a semiconductor that is present, right? This is the metal, because there is a sudden jump at x equal to 0, and we have a depletion region over there. So this is the semiconductor side. So what this suggests us is that the right side is more positive in potential. So what you can say, the bulk semiconductor is actually more positive as compared to electrostatic potential of the metal, right? So I hope this question was clear. If you guys have any doubt, then please proceed ahead. So now this question is asking me draw the energy band diagram of the isolated metal and semiconductor. They are not asking me to combine them. It is asking me to they are asking me to, what you can say, draw isolated diagram itself. That is, there will be no band bending. Okay, before the joining they are asking. So before they were joined, be sure of how the vacuum level, work function of semiconductor and other relevant quantities, right? So now first of all tell me whether the Fermi level will be constant or it will be different. It is before the joining. See, we have not joined them yet. What will be the position of Fermi level? Whether it will be same or it will be different?
Different.
Right? And what about the vacuum level? Vacuum level will remain constant, or there will be some bending in the vacuum level?
No bending.
No bending, right? Exactly. So let's, oh sorry, just a minute. Yeah. So let's say this is my vacuum level, correct? Now let's say I have Fermi level for the metal present over here, and at what distance it will be present, I had calculated it, right? The phi m, you guys helped me to calculate this value, phi m, 4.65 electron volts, right? So this is what, 4.65 electron volts, correct? And now somewhere what you can say, there will be a Fermi level of, what you can say, a semiconductor, right? Now I just wanted to know whether this Fermi level will be above or below. So now what I actually know is that they have given me what you can say electron, what you can say they have given me the affinity, electron affinity, right? So it has been given to me as what you can say the 4.03 electron volts, correct? So now this 4.03 will be lesser as compared to this 4.65 electron volts, and hence my EC level will be somewhere over here. This is what 4.03 electron volts, correct? Now we have calculated at what distance the Fermi level will be from EC, right? So if you look over here, the EC minus EF, see, this is the value of no, not this. Where is it? Yeah, so this is the value of EC minus EF, correct? So it is 0.21 volts. So if I consider in terms of electron volt, the reason why the volts was here because I had divided over here by Q, correct? So now if I write it in terms of electron volts, then the Fermi level will be somewhere here, and it will be 0.21 electron volts away. So this will be Fermi level, correct? There will be somewhere I will be having my EI, correct? And there will be a EV over here, correct? So if you look at this, correct, this distance, this is what, this is phi s and this is phi m, correct? So what you can see over here, the phi s is what, 4.03 plus 0.21, it will be coming out to be 4.24 electron volt, and phi m is what, 4.65 electron volts. Now just one more question. The reason why I asked you to draw this is because I just wanted to ask one more question. So just tell me whether this is a rectifying contact or whether this is the ohmic contact, and how are you going to check it?
Phi m is greater than phi s.
Yeah, correct. So phi m is greater than phi s, right? So what is this contact? This is not the ohmic contact, right? This is a rectifying contact. Yeah. So what you can say, it is a what you can say a rectifying contact, right? So this was the last question for this was the last sub question of this question. Now coming to the next question. So what they have asked us in the next question, answer the following questions about the metal silicon junction. Again the Schottky barrier has been given. So what the Schottky barrier question has been given. So assume a hypothetical metal work function has been given to me, and assume that the electron affinity has also been given to me, right? So now what they have asked, assume that the silicon is n-type. Okay, they have already given me it's a n-type, and they have also given me the doping concentration. So what they are asking me is draw an energy band diagram and indicate the Schottky barrier height on your sketch, right? So we have seen as of now that we have drawn the diagram over here, and to accurately draw the diagram I need to know the value of EC minus EF, correct? Unless and until I know the value of EC minus EF, I cannot draw the relative positions of the Fermi levels properly, correct? So let's calculate the value of EC minus EF first. And how are we going to calculate? Because NC has been given to me and the doping concentration has been also given to me, correct? So now EC minus EF divided by Q is KT by Q what? Ln of NC by ND, correct? So this will be equal to what? 0.0259 ln of 8 not 8, sorry, the NC has been what? 3.23 into 10 to the power 19 divided by the ND has been given as 10 to the power 17, right? So if you calculate it, then it will come out to be approximately 0.15, and if I just remove this Q, then this will become in terms of 0.15 electron volts, correct? So now let's start to draw the diagram for just a minute. Something has happened. Okay. Just a minute, guys. Just keyboard just stopped working. Yeah. Sorry for the trouble. I don't know. It is happening very frequently. So let's start drawing the diagram. So now first I will draw the diagram. What you can say before the bending happens, right? So this is our E naught, right? Here our EFM will be present, correct? And it has been given at what? 4.6 EV, correct? Now somewhere my EC will be present over here, correct? Depending on the value of chi that has been given. 4.03, right? And just below the EC, my EF will be there. EF will be there. So this is EF, and this is what 0.15 EV, correct? And somewhere over here EI will be there, and I will be having EV over here, correct? So now as you can see, this 4.03 plus 0.15 is less as compared to EF of the metal. So the Fermi level of the semiconductor is going to be higher than the Fermi level of the metal, right? So now I just want one hint from you guys. Can you please tell me where the bands will bend? So bending will be on the upward side, or band bending will be on the lower side?
Upward side.
Upward side, exactly, correct. So now even the vacuum level is going to bend in the same way, right? So if I draw the diagram, first of all I have to draw the EF, right? Because this is the rule, this has to be constant, correct? Now the bands will be bending on the upward side, right? So let's say this is how my AC will be looking like, correct? And since the electron affinity cannot change, right? So even the vacuum band vacuum level has to bend, correct? It will be looking something like this, correct? And in the on the metal side it will be constant, because if it is not constant, then that means my work function itself will change with the distance. That cannot be possible, correct? So this is what 4.6 electron volts that is present. This has been the electron affinity, 4.03 electron volts, right? And now this is what, this will be what, the Schottky barrier, correct? So phi of B naught, correct? And even the EI will bend, and even the, what you can say, EC will bend in the same way, correct? Sorry, not EC, EV. Yeah, so this is how the band diagram of the when I join them, this is how the band diagram will be looking like. And what they have, so we have already indicated the Schottky barrier over here. Now in the next question, what they have asked me, now they have given me that they have changed the semiconductor material type directly, and now they are asking me to draw the diagram in this case. So as I told you in both the previous examples, that I want to determine the Fermi level position with respect to EC first, right? Because why I am doing this, because I want to check in which direction the bands are going to bend, and this will depend on the relative Fermi position levels of the metal and the semiconductor, right? Now in this case, what they have given is that they have changed the material to the P type, right? So first I have to determine the Fermi level position with respect to EV, correct? So EF with respect to EV I have to determine first, right? And it's not a big task, because NV has been given to me. See, this is the value of NV, right? Value of NV has been given to me, and I know the doping concentration. They have been also given the doping concentration to me. So first of all I have to find the difference of EF minus EV, right? And from there I have to actually check what is the difference of Fermi levels of both metals as well as the semiconductor, right? So now how am I going to do this? So as you know from the formula for the concentration of the holes with respect to NV, it changes like minus of EF minus EV, just a minute, yeah, EF minus EV by KT, right? So now what I can write about the EF minus EV is that EF minus EV will be, so if I just take the Q over here, it will be what, KT by Q ln of NV by NA, correct? And if you substitute all the values, so you will get this as what, 0.135 electron volts, correct? So now I know what is the value of EF minus EV, correct? So just for the sake of what you can say simplicity, let's draw the band diagram before the bending happens, before we join them. So let's say this is my EF, correct? And now this has been given to me as 4.6 EV. This is 5M value. Let's say this is my EC, correct? This is what the chi of SI, and this has been given to me what, 4.03 EV. Somewhere there will be EI. Now there will be EV, and there will be EF, right? See, I'm just drawing it as of rough now. I just don't know which Fermi level is higher as compared to what, right? So this is 0.135 EV, correct? Now I have to determine the EFM and EFS. I have to determine their difference. So how can I actually determine it? So let's see how we can do it. So we know that EC minus EFM what is the value of this thing? It is nothing but this phi m that you are seeing over here minus this chi over here, right? This is what you can say your Schottky barrier that is present, right? So we can easily write it as phi m minus chi of Si that is present, right? But I don't want with respect to EC, I want with respect to EV, right? So EC I can write it as EV plus EG, right? Minus EF m should be equal to phi m minus chi Si, correct? So now I have written it over here. Now what I want over here, somehow just like EFM term is there, I want to bring this EFS term on this equation, correct? So that I can compare EFS with EFM, correct? So what I am going to do over here, I have EV with me, and I know if I add 0.135 electron volts then on both the sides, then that EV plus 0.135 will become EFS, correct? So I am just going to add 0.135 on both the sides. Is equal to what? Phi minus chi Si plus 0.135, correct? Now what this will become like, okay, this will become like EG plus what you can say this EV and 0.135 I am writing it together. This will become EF of S minus EF of M, correct? And this will be equal to what? Phi m minus chi Si plus 0.135, correct? So now I just wanted to know this term. I know the value of EG. EG is 1.12, correct? For silicon. I know chi Si, right? I know phi m. This 0.135 is also there. So if you calculate this difference, then it will come that EF of M minus EF of F, it will come out to be some 0.415 electron volts, correct? So what this suggests us is that the Fermi level on the metal side is much higher actually as compared to the Fermi level on the semiconductor side, correct? So now can you tell me in which direction the band bending is going to happen? The band bending will be on the downward side or it will be on the upward side? Hello?
Downward side.
Downward side. Guys, what do you think? It is correct or not? Hello? Hello, what do you guys think? Just a minute. Oh yeah, again that problem started to happen. Just a minute. Yeah. Just give me a minute. There is some problem with the keyboard. Hey, shit. Just a minute. Okay, so I will just draw the diagram. We don't have much time, sorry. Yes, I will just explain you the logic. Since the Fermi level on the metal side is actually highest and the Fermi levels has to balance with respect to each other. So what you can think is like let's say this portion is on your RHS, right? So RHS has to move up and the LHS has to move down, right? So this band bending will happen in this type of a manner, correct? So this is my, what you can say, the vacuum level. My Fermi level has to remain constant, correct? Over here. And what will be the shape of the EC? It will be same like the vacuum level, correct? This will be EC, the EF is present, and what you can say, my EV will be like this, correct? And for the metal, so as you can see, this formula is present over here. This will be my phi of BO, correct? This will be my phi M, correct? And what you can say, this is my chi of SI, correct? Now this is again a logical question that they have asked. They have asked us explain why each of the above two examples is or is not expected to be a rectifying junction, right? So how generally we determine whether this is a case of rectifying or what you can say, ohmic junction. So we generally check using this table that has been given in the lecture material, right? So now let's check for the p type first. So we have to check the value of phi s and phi m, correct? So now if I check the value of phi s over here, so if I add this EC plus EF with chi of SI, right? So what is the value of EC plus not EC plus EF? I guess I have to check. Yeah, this is the value of EC plus EF, correct? So now if I have to check the value of psi s is determined by what? The difference between the vacuum level and the Fermi level over here, right? So if we have this difference over here, and if you look at the what you can say, the phi m that is present over here, then you can clearly see that your psi s is going to be greater than psi m, correct? And if you look for what you can say for the case of the n type semiconductor, here we already know the difference of EC minus EF, right? So this was what, 0.15 EV, this was what, 4.03 EV, right? So in this case, so for n type, your phi m was actually greater than phi s, correct? And for p type, your phi s was actually greater than phi m, right? So for n type, if my phi m is greater than phi s, then this is a rectifying contact, right? And in p type, if my psi s is greater than phi m, then again it's a rectifying contact. So in both the cases, it's a case of the rectifying contact only. And now what they have asked us is they have asked us to actually calculate the Schottky barrier height. So for the case of n type, right? So let's check in the energy band diagram itself. So this is the value of the Schottky barrier height that I have to actually calculate, right? So this difference that you can see over here, it will be nothing but the difference of 4.6 EV and what you can say 4.03 EV, correct? So phi BO will be what, 4.6 minus 4.03, and this will come out to be 0.57 EV, correct? And now in the next case, where in the case of the p type, now I have to determine the phi BO over here, right? So how am I going to determine the phi BO? See, the barrier is always present for the majority carrier flow, right? So for n type, my majority carriers were electrons, and that's why I was taking everything with respect to EC, right? That is the difference of EC and the Fermi level present on the metal side, right? But here my majority carriers are going to be holes, right? So I cannot take the difference with respect to EC. Now I have to take the difference between what you can say your EF and EV, right? So now the difference over here will be the phi BO will be nothing but E of M minus EV, correct? And what is E of M minus, how can I calculate the EV? So EV I can calculate by doing EC minus EG, correct? So now EF, M and EC I know, and even the EG value I know, right? So if you calculate, then the phi BO value will come out to be 0.55 electron volts. Okay, so now so this, if you calculate, then in one case it's what, 0.55 electron volts for p type and 0.57 electron volts for n type, correct? So now this question was over. Okay, so I will just give you guys the homework, this question. So now what has been asked over here, compute the donor impurity concentration that is required to make the contact ohmic for the first example, and is it even making sense, right? So what so as we know that in the first case Yeah, so in this first case, what we have to do is like we have clearly seen that the Fermi level, this what you can say, the phi m was greater, phi m is greater than phi s, right? So to make the contact ohmic, what I have to do actually, I have to make phi s greater than phi m, correct? And so the doping concentration where this will happen, they have asked me to calculate that doping concentration, right? So now how is it going to happen that phi s will become greater than phi m? So if you look in this figure, I want, just a minute, something again happened, too many problems that are occurring. Shit. Yeah, okay, it started working. So what you can say, I want phi s to be greater than phi m for what? Ohmic contact, correct? Now can you guys please tell me what should happen to the difference of ec minus ef? If I want that the phi s should become greater than phi m, then what should happen to the difference of ec minus ef? It should increase or it should decrease? It should decrease. Okay, if ec minus ef is going to decrease, then what happens to the phi s?
It should Fermi level should go down.
Fermi level should go down, exactly. If the Fermi level is going down, that means the material is becoming less n type or more p type, more n type,
More p type.
more p type, that is n type. The n type, the dopant concentration should decrease, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So now what they asked is like they have told you guys that find this value of nd over here, this ec minus ef, this summation that you are seeing over here, right? So this 4.03 plus 0.15 e, right? So this should not be 0.15 e now. This ec minus ef should be such that this 4.03 plus ec minus ef becomes exactly equal to 4.6, correct? So I will just give you some help. So ec minus ef should be 4.6 minus 4.03 ev. This is the exact value where it is a junction where what you can say, the junction will be exactly in between. What you can say, it will just switch from that ohmic to not ohmic, rectifying to ohmic, right? So ec minus ef, you know, now this just use this kt by q ln of nc by nd, right? And you have to get this to be 0.57 electron volts. Okay, I have written q over here, so this e should not be there. Yeah, so now what you have to do over here, you just have to calculate the value of nd, right? And just calculate the value of nd, and when will it not make sense, right? If nd becomes comparable to ni, or nd falls less than ni, right? This doesn't make sense, right? So if this is the case, then what you can be sure of, any type of n type doping, if I just take these materials, right, the si and the metal that has been given to me, right, if I just take these two materials, and if this condition satisfies, then that means any dopant concentration that I put on the semiconductor, it is not going to give me ohmic contact anyway, right? So you guys just have to check it, and you guys can come back with the answer in the next session. So I hope the concept for this question was clear to you. I guess we will just take one more question, and after that there was a doubt that has been asked to me in the last session, so I will just clarify that doubt after this question, and we will end the session. So now again I will take help from you guys only. So a Schottky diode with n type gallium arsenide at E equal to 300k has been given to us, and what they have given, 1 upon c square versus voltage curve has been given to us, right? So first of all, they have asked us to calculate the value of VBI, right? So now this the left side image that you are seeing over here, it has been taken from the lecture material itself. Now can you guys please tell me, how can I find the value of VBI? How do we generally determine the value of VBI?
From
this
W depletion width.
depletion width. I just look at the graph. Just want to determine directly in one line. You will get the answer. Yeah, see, you have the formula. You are correct. You have the formula over here, right? Now I just want to get the value of VBI. Just tell me the point where I can, what should I do? Like whether I should put x equal to 0, y equal to 0 to get the value of VBI.
Yes.
Correct. So just look at this point. What is happening at this point? What is the value of 1 by c square?
-1.
Or the value of y-axis?
0.
0, exactly, right? So if so at this point my y-axis is 0. So if you just look at this equation, then if I equate the left hand side to be 0, then I will get VR equal to minus VBI. Correct? And here you are going to get some value of VR that is in the negative, right? So this intercept that you are seeing over here, it is nothing but the value of minus VBI. Correct? And if you just go closely, then this value is nothing but 0.9. So this VBI is nothing but 0.9 volts over here, right? Now this was the first part. Now I want to calculate the value of ND over here. Again look at this equation. Let me name it actually. Equation number A. Again look at the equation number A and tell me how am I going to find the value of ND. Just relate the graph with this equation number A. What do I need to find the value of ND?
Maybe the slope. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Correct. You need the value of slope, right? So now if you look at the graph, then what I'm just taking 2 points. This is the point number X and this is my point number Y. Correct? So if you look at the slope, then it's what the value of Y over here, that is 3 into 10 to the power minus 15, minus the value of Y over here, which is 0 at point number Y, right? And this is when what you can say, the value of X is 2 and the value of VBI is what, minus 0.9. Correct? So if you look at the slope, then the value of slope will come out to be, I guess it will be around 1.03 into 10 to the power 50. Okay, so this was the value of slope that you got, and through this equation, see, this is the 1 upon c square is here, your VR is over here, right? So this is nothing but y is equal to what you can say mx plus c kind of equation. So the slope from this equation is your just this term, correct? 2 upon epsilon si q nd, correct? So 2 upon epsilon si q nd. So this was the slope that was given to me. Correct? Now let's check. Here epsilon si won't be there, epsilon gallium arsenide will be there. Okay, just a minute, my keyboard handle. Yeah. So this won't be Si, this will be GAS. Correct? So now what I can do, 2 upon epsilon of GS is how much? It's I guess 13.1. So 13.1 into your free space permittivity, that formula will come. Correct? Into 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19, correct, into the value of ND, which I don't know, 1.03 into 10 to the power 50, correct. So now if you just look use this, then the value of ND will come out to be 1.05 into 10 to the power 16 cm to the power minus 3. So this is the value of ND that you will be having. And now in the next part, that what they have asked, okay, some weird things are happening again. Yeah, so we have calculated ND, we have calculated VBI, correct? Now they have asked us to calculate the phi n. So what is this phi n actually? So this phi n is nothing but they have asked us to calculate EC minus EF, correct? And what is this value? KT by Q ln of NC by ND. Correct? So now let's check. Okay, I forgot to give you guys one value. The value of NC was given as 4.7 into 10 to the power 17 cm to the power minus 3. Okay, this was given. So now I will use this value, and you know the value of ND over here, right? So if you just substitute, then the value of phi n that you are going to get is around 0.0985 electron volts. Correct? And now what they have asked me is they have asked me to calculate the Schottky barrier now. Correct? Now how can I calculate the Schottky barrier? Guys, I again need help from you. We'll just wrap up it very quickly. This is the last question. How can I calculate the Schottky barrier? Which formula I have to use?
Phi m minus chi of gallium sir असं आहे.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Sir phi m minus chi of gallium arsenide.
That is not given now. The chi of gallium arsenide has not been given. Yeah. Can you one more formula will somebody has just mentioned in the chat section, I guess. Just let me see. Yeah, exactly, correct. So what they have given, so just look at the chat section. Yeah, so what he has given is like I have to use this formula Q VBI plus phi n. This will be what the height of Schottky barrier, correct? So now do I know the VBI? Of course I know the VBI, right? Because I had calculated that intercept, correct? So it was 0.9. And what is the value of phi n? We have just calculated 0.0985, correct? So if you calculate, then phi BO will come out to be 0.9985 electron volts. Okay. Yeah, and guys, generally don't get confused. This VBI term, this VBI will be always in the volts mostly, and this phi n and phi v, whatever you are seeing, generally their values are present in electron volts. So even if you look at the value of chi, or even if you look at the value of phi m, any reference book you take, it will be mostly in the electron volts itself. So whenever you have a confusion, like you have some term that is present in the volts and something is present in the electron volts, or if you are not getting anything, then just remember that these terms will always be present in the electron volts. Mostly your VBI itself will be always present in the volts. That is a built-in potential, and that we have also seen in the case of the silicon as well as the germanium diodes, right? We used to get some values like 0.68 volts, 0.7 volts, right? But if you see the values of chi or phi m, they will be mostly present in the electron volts, right? So if you have any confusion, then just remember this thing over here. So okay, so I guess we will stop over here, and any just a minute, we will stop over here, and I will just go to the, what you can say, there was some doubt that was asked in the last session. Yeah, just a minute. Yeah, so the doubt was, why we are not considering the effect of recombination that happens in the depletion region. Right? So somebody had questioned the assumption itself. So let's say I have P.
Sir, because the depletion region is already depleted of majority carriers.
Yeah, correct. That's one point. Correct. Now I will come to the next point. So you will be having a, what you can say, negatively exposed immobile ions over here. Correct. Yeah. So see, this is what happens when you join the PN junctions, right? So now I just wanted you guys to first tell me this thing. Let's say I have a N-type semiconductor, correct? And there is this concentration gradient that is actually present. So let's say there was something, let's say photo generation or something that I don't know right now. So let's say there was a concentration that was introduced exactly at this age, right? And the concentration started diffusing. So now how do you guys actually determine it? So the J diff will be what, that q equal to q dp by dx, and there is a negative sign, I guess, right? So now these are the majority these are the minority carriers will be diffusing, right? Because their concentration is going to change by a huge factor, right? Now I just have one question for you guys. You all know, right, this is the exponential decay, correct? And this is J diffusion of x. If p is, let's say, exponential to the power minus x by l or something like that, then you know at each x value your J diff is changing, correct? So now can you actually tell me what is this actually? At each and every point my current density, that is the current itself, is changing at each and every point, right? That means something weird is happening, because KCL doesn't allow me to do that. It is like, as I am moving in the forward direction, somebody is sucking out the charges out of what I want to propagate. Let's say this was the current that I wanted to pass, so somebody is sucking out the charges in between. So it looks like some violation of the KCL. So can you guys please tell me what is actually happening over here? How the current can change across the, what you can say, across the distance? And note that this even happens in the PN junction as well, right? So if we, as you move away from the depletion region, you know that you have a concentration gradients, right? So I have told you that now you guys tell me that you guys always say the diffusion current is the majority current that flows in the PN junction, right? Now this J diff itself is changing with this concentration gradient, right? At each and every point the J diff is changing, and now what you guys are telling me, okay, you apply just a constant bias right over here, and you will have that current I is equal to I naught and e to the power q VA by kt minus 1, right? So now if you look at this current equation, first you guys have told me ki, okay, in the PN junction the diffusion current is the dominant current, right? Now I am telling you the diffusion current itself is changing with the distance. But now using this equation, what you are saying that your diffusion current is constant, it is just dependent on this term VA, whatever I am applying. So what is actually happening over here?
So what is the question?
Yeah, the question was, see, the main question that was asked was the doubt that I have written over here. Now I asked you another question, just to help you guys understand the concept, that if you have an N-type material over here, and you have a what you can say, a certain concentration that has been introduced at this edge, x equal to 0, maybe because of photo generation or anywhere, because of anything, right? So this carrier concentration is gonna diffuse, right, as they move ahead into the N-type region. Correct? So now what I told you is like, you guys know very well that this concentration is exponentially decaying, right? So the dp by dx itself will be some exponential, correct? And if this is exponential, it is varying with the distance x, then my J diff, that is a diffusion current density, will also vary with the distance x. Now my question was, this same phenomena happens away from the depletion region in the PN junction, right? So that means the diffusion current itself is changing with the distance, correct? Now what I told you, but what you guys have heard in the lectures as well, the diffusion current is the majority, what you can say, a major component of what you can say this diode current equation, right? Now my question was, if this major component itself is varying with the distance, then how can you say that your current is constant that is flowing in the PN junction?
Sir, it's becoming by test current
Sorry?
which makes it
Yeah, exactly. It is becoming balanced by the drift current, right? Yeah, correct.
current.
Exactly. You are correct. Exactly. You are correct. Now, just tell me what is actually happening. Now, another question. Now, the concentration of the excess concentration that was introduced at this age, as they start diffusing, what is actually happening? Who is sucking out these charges actually? See, this concentration is decreasing, right? Who is actually sucking out the charges as they are trying to move forward?
Can it be because of transient? After
Transient-
which reaches a after reaching some distance,
Yeah,
it's
no,
decay 36%
They are getting annihilated with respect
yeah,
to time.
exactly. So the first, I want to tell the first person that transient will occur only if I stop this source, right? The reason why I have the excess carriers at x equal to 0, if I stop the photo generation process, only then the transient will come into the picture, right? Let's say this has been in the steady state concentration, right? So if you are continuously injecting it, then you have some concentration, and this concentration will keep on decaying like this, right? Now I have already told you, like this concentration, as the whole electrons, not electrons, sorry, the excess holes will start diffusing, so there will be another component that you told me, like the drift will come up and it will maintain this concentration gradient, right? It will not be like it will be constant or flat everywhere. Now the another person that told me it will annihilate. Yeah, exactly. So what is actually happening, as your electrons are actually not electrons, sorry, why I'm saying electrons, your excess holes which are trying to move from left to right side, as they are moving, they are getting recombined actually. So that's why your concentration is actually decaying over here. Now I just wanted to know why I told you this, because if I just take a very small section of this thing over here, right? See, this is a large length, this is a length of what you can say the entire n-type region, right? Now I am taking only this much length, correct? So this exponential that you are seeing over here, right? So now this decay, just tell me why this decay actually happens. There is some what you can say diffusion length of the carriers that is present, right? There is some lifetime of the carriers, there is some diffusion length of the carriers that is also present. So if I don't allow my carriers enough distance so that they get recombined, just tell me whether the recombination will happen in a huge factor or it will be a very small factor. I want my excess carriers to face large enough distance compared to their diffusion length so that they get a chance to actually recombine and get a chance to actually decay as they progress ahead. Now what I am telling you, if this distance of the n-type, that the length that you are seeing, let's say this is wn, right? This is not the depletion width. Okay, I will just write this as xn and this is at xp, right? This is not the depletion rate, please please correct it. Now I'm just telling you, if this wn becomes comparable with the what you can say ln and lp, that is a diffusion length of holes and electrons, that is I'm not even allowing them to what you can say get recombined properly. So now tell me whether this recombination will happen in a what you can say a normal manner, or the recombination will be less now.
So we know Dn is square root of Ln times Tn. So recombination will be proportional to current.
A recombination will be proportional to current.
Diffusion current.
Sorry, using?
The recombination will be proportional to diffusion current. Since dP is a square root of Ln times tau p.
Can you just repeat again?
Since diffusion is proportional to diffusion coefficient, diffusion coefficient is the square root of Ln times tau1. So tau1 will be proportional to diffusion coefficient.
Tau n will be corresponding to the diffusion coefficients. Okay. So
in a similar fashion, how the current, it will be proportional to current.
it will be proportional to yeah. So you are saying the more the lifetime of the carrier is, your what you can say.
What will be the current? If the current is diffusion current is more, lifetime will be more. Lifetime to decay.
No, what is the fundamental phenomena? The diffusion is a fundamental. The diffusion current is a fundamental phenomena. Or the lifetime of the carrier is a fundamental phenomena. From where does this lifetime of a carrier comes?
Diffusion is fundamental.
No, but who will define the what you can say why this diffusion current is existing? Because I just inserted this photogeneration process, right? I just inserted some excess minority carriers, right? If I don't insert it, let's say I just have the n-type semiconductor with the uniformly doped semiconductor, will the diffusion current exist? Will the diffusion current exist? The diffusion current always needs a concentration gradient, right? Always needs a concentration gradient that will be present.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry.
It needs concentration gradient. It needs concentration gradient.
Exactly, yeah, it needs concentration gradient, right? Now coming to this lifetime of the carrier, this depends on how pure your semiconductor is actually. You must have heard those concepts of traps or something, right? Let's say you have EC and you have EV. You, because of the defects, your silicon is not pure. You have introduced some levels over here, right? Let's say this is zinc, this is manganese or something, right? Now what happens when the semiconductor is not pure is that you are actually allowing these levels, you are actually allowing the electrons over here to actually get trapped into these levels, right? So the probability that these electrons get trapped over here is higher as compared to the electrons get recombined with this EV. So you are actually helping in the recombination process, correct? So now what I was telling is that this tau n is there, and right, so this tau n actually is the fundamental property of the material itself. Your diffusion current is not a fundamental property, your tau n is the fundamental property, correct? Now what I was telling you is that this diffusion coefficient, right? Now this guy told me that the diffusion coefficient is your root of ln times tau n, right? Now I want to tell you guys, like, if the distance of this n type, if I shrink it to such a low value, right? See, first of all, just understand why these carriers are diffusing properly, because I'm allowing them the length which is greater than their diffusion length, right? I'm having the length of the n-type region which is greater than this diffusion length over here. So if I make this length very small, let's say comparable to the diffusion length, they will not get enough time to recombine properly. So this exponential that you are seeing over here now, so if I make this x as comparable to L or something, right? So this e to the power minus will become very small. So I can even approximate that exponential with a linear decay or something like that, right? So I was just telling ki since in the PN junction what you are doing is like actually the first of all one of the guy told me ki that the region is actually depleted, right? That is actually true, correct? But what happens when you introduce the forward bias? When you introduce the forward bias, what you are actually doing is like there are what you can say holes that are present over here, the excess minority carriers, the charge that you have injected because of this VA. And what is this value? Its value is what you can say Pn naught exponential of VA QVA by KT, correct? Now the question was something different. So what someone had asked me is that why these carriers actually the carriers that I am actually injecting, right, at the edge of the depletion region, right? So why are they not recombining in this region itself? So one of the assumptions that we had used in the depletion while calculating the current was that, so your approximation was that your width of the depletion region, right, so it will be very less compared to what you can say Ln or Lp, the diffusion length of the holes and electrons, right? So this was one of the assumptions that was there, right? Now I will also come when this assumption doesn't hold true, because we have seen that sometimes the width actually swamps out entire n-type or entire p-type region depending on the doping concentration, right? So now what I want to tell you guys is that if this distance is extremely small as compared to the diffusion length of the electrons and holes that are present, that means they are not getting enough time to recombine properly. And because this effect of what someone had told me that the recombination happens, right, and because of that you are actually getting this exponential decay, right? So now if this distance is so small that if I just zoom into this region, a very region, then I will just see some line like this, right? and this will be very small decay that I will be able to observe. So if this assumption is holding true, then this is true that they are not even getting enough time to recombine properly, and hence whatever carrier injection happens from the P side to this side, right, and whatever what you can say injection happens from N side to P side, they are not even getting enough time to recombine because the width of the depletion region is very small. This was the assumption that has been made, and if we assume that this assumption holds true, then there is not going to be a very high recombination that will be present over there, right? Now what if this assumption doesn't hold true? If this assumption doesn't hold true, that is the width becomes higher, then obviously there is definitely going to be some recombination that is going to happen, and what you can say, and because of that recombination you will have some decay from what you can say, when I am injecting the holes from left side to the right side, there will be some there you will be able to observe some decay like this, right? But now another question comes. If you go to the Sir's lecture, that I guess 5.6 or some lecture you can refer, where he had talked about that recombination and all non-idealities. So he had told that this effect is dominant when your VA is very small. Now how small VA you want? VA is around some few kT volts. This value will be in some millivolts actually, if you calculate it. So if you apply VA in such a small millivolts, then only what you will be able to see is that the recombination actually, what you can say, degrades, that this whatever charges I am injecting from the left side, they won't be going as it is to the right side. There is going to be some recombination that will be happening, right? And this happens when the VA is actually small. And now once that VA reaches a particular value, let's say VA is large, for example you have reached what you can say, see you are operating in the forward bias, right? You have to at least overcome the potential barrier. So if you apply 0.7 or 0.8 volts or something like that, then this value that Sir has told, this millivolts value, is nothing. We have increased our VA to much higher value as compared to this few millivolts, and once that value has been achieved, then the amount of charges I am actually injecting and the recombination that happens in this depletion region, that recombination is not going to significantly affect whatever charges I am trying to inject from P to N side or N to P side. So there were two sub questions, that there were two sub reasons. One reason, when the assumption holds true, that then the what you can say, the depletion region ka width is not high enough, that the diffusion is happening properly within the what you can say, within the depletion region, and since that recombination, they are not getting enough time to recombine it properly, there is not going to be much recombination that will be happening in the depletion region. So that's the first case, and this is when we are actually talking when the PN junction has been joined and the depletion region has already been formed, okay? And the second reason was when you actually have a large depletion width, then you will be having what you can say, a recombination, and that recombination effect becomes significant when the voltage that you apply, the forward bias voltage, right? The forward bias voltage that you apply is actually in some millivolts, and if you increase this voltage to a higher value, maybe comparable to the built-in potential or higher than that, then this effect is not good. Then this effect is not going to be significant, and you can see the Sir's lecture if you want to get a clear understanding of that. Was this clear, or you guys have more doubts?
Clear, sir. I was only asked this question last week.
Okay, yeah, no, this was a very good question. See, I always encourage people to question assumptions, because this is what we do in the research, right? So if you are questioning the assumptions, that means you are actually thinking in terms of like a researcher. So I always welcome such type of questions, and it is just that if I don't have answer right now, then I will come back in the next session and will solve if you have any more doubts like this. So this was a very good question, and I was very happy that you guys have asked it. Yeah. Guys, any more doubts, any more questions in the things that we have solved, the numericals today, or the concepts that I have taught in this lecture?
So one more question this week.
Yeah.
When discussing during SARS lecture, in one of the concepts he said method of images, and one of the side it's made to be metal and other side is to be dielectric.
Okay, method of okay, I haven't seen that lecture. Okay, what was the method of images? And
one of the side is metal and other side is semiconductor.
Okay.
So in semiconductor there is a charge.
Hmm.
By with respect to method of images, there is also opposite equal and opposite charge
Yeah.
on the
Metal side.
conductor metal side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know that tangential component of electric field zero inside a metal or conductor. How there is a charge inside the how charge is existing in conductor.
Ah, that charge is not a real charge. That's a fictitious charge that we are taking. It's a what you can say just to get the what you can say just to get our answer our whenever we are doing some derivation or something. So what you can see is like obviously there won't be any charge that will be present in the metal, right? So now what I was telling is like that charge is not a real charge. That is what you can say a method of images that has been developed. So if you want to calculate a let's say a total electric field, right? So let's say you have a charge and you have just placed a conductor below it. So now what is going to happen? Okay, that charge will generate some field, but what is going to happen is like if you want to calculate a total electric field at any particular point, then what you have to do is that you have to take the image of that charge inside the metal. That charge is not actual charge. That is just the what you can say for the derivations or calculating the total electric field, we actually use it to actually calculate the total electric field. So just to answer your question in a simple line, that charge is not an actual charge. That is a fictitious charge that has been considered by us, and that method of images was a proven thing that was done a long time back. So it works and it helps our derivations in a very huge manner. So that's why we take that fictitious charge. That's it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. That's all the questions.
Okay, okay. Guys, any more questions? I will stop the session if you guys don't have any questions. Okay, it seems you guys don't have any questions. So thank you and sorry for ruining your another Sunday. And I hope this was not a boring lecture. And sorry for the troubles. There was a good amount of problem that was caused by my keyboard. I don't know what happened. So thank you again. I will stop the recording. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You can also proceed fast. No problem, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
We can rewind it and see. No problem, sir. You
Okay,
proceed
sir.
on your own
Thank you.
speed.
Thank you so much. Sir.